Hi guys, it's time for the February prompt for one little word, but before I get started, you can see I've already started here. I just wanted to say I did fill in my monthly thing for last month for January. I cheated a tiny bit because it had already happened before I finished the page, but with a week to go in January I wasn't being too hard on myself, so it was just a way of noting down something significant related to my word that had actually already happened in January. So now I can get started with February. So you can see here I have been through some magazines and ripped out a whole bunch of stuff. Now I'm not like a big magazine person, so I bought one magazine for myself and I grabbed a couple off a friend who had finished with them. Didn't mind me ripping them to shreds. Otherwise, the only other thing I did, I'll show you here. So these were the magazines I had. I had Frankie, The Simple Things, and Breathe magazine. So those were the three that I went through. The other thing I did have was I had this pocket page here that I put all of my leftover images and words in from last year. So I did go through that again, just to see if anything took my eye, took my fancy, and a few things did, but obviously you can see not that much. I had kept this with the intention that rather than waste it, I would keep it for this year or, you know, another project. But I think one of the things is because my word has changed, my intentions have changed, and I don't know whether my eye or the images that attract me have changed, but this stuff here doesn't appeal to me this year like it did last year. So I'm not sure what I'll do with this, and it sort of colours my thoughts on whether I'll keep what remains of this pile as well. I'm sure I still probably will keep it and it'll end up in a drawer for another year like this one did, but I guess that's just another thing to consider, is that do I need to keep this? Do I need to keep this stuff, or is that something I can let go once I've finished this prompt? So the first thing I'm gonna do is I've just really roughly trimmed everything out here, and the only thing I've really done is trimmed down the words from each page that I pulled out. So I think I'm going to just organize this pile a little bit more, and then I'll come back to you when I've got a firmer plan of what I'm gonna do. Obviously I am gonna pop this in my pocket page notebook like I did last year. It worked really well for me last year. I liked the little pages, so I am planning on doing that again. Just not quite sure how I'm going to do it, so I'll be back. Okay, so I've got things slightly more organized. I didn't end up with a lot of pictures this year. Like, I've got a lot of words, a lot of littler words, and I pulled out quite a few sort of larger full page images, but then not as many of these sort of smaller collagey type images, so which is gonna change, not change necessarily, but it's gonna affect how I do this in my book, because the pages are quite small, so I need smaller images to do a collage kind of thing. So I think instead of doing lots of little picture-y collages, I'm going to go with words. Obviously that's what I was feeling this year. I know I'm a visual person, but I also do like the word aspect of it. So I think I'm going to go through these larger images and trim them out to be full page to fit in my pocket page notebook, and then I will collage some words on top of that. Now the only difference for that is that I found this quote, which I really liked. Last year I did do a sort of cover page to my collages, I think, so I'm going to trim this down and have this be the first page of my mood board, so that at least there's some sort of division between that and just the regular work of my notebook. So let's get started. So like I said, I'm gonna start by trimming these down, and look at me being so careful using a pencil to measure things out, but realized if I had cut where I made my pencil marks, I would have chopped my quote in half. So I've had to redo that, be a little bit more careful how I'm trimming things out when I want them in a specific place, which is something I'm gonna have to bear in mind as I trim down all these images too. I'm being really careful about which particular part of the page I want on the notebook. And then again, you can see me actually measuring out with a pencil, which, as you'll know, is a reasonably rare occurrence in these parts. Now I'm just going to trim out all of these larger images that I've pulled out of the magazines, but I'm definitely not going to need to use them all. I have a lot of space this year in my notebooks because I've got more than one, but I still don't feel the need to make this many collages. So I just picked out 5. I figured if I needed more than that later on, I could always go back to the other images, and I know it seems unusual for me to have skipped over the image with the coffee in it, but I kind of liked the cooler tones of these images that they all worked really nicely together, which I like. Even though they're going to be in obviously separate pages in the notebook, there will end up being 2 spreads in here, so I did like the idea that they all worked together as a whole, which I guess if you follow the prompts from the class exactly, then that's what you would be doing, making one whole collage. I'm making 5 tiny little ones, but I do like the idea that they all work together with one sort of purpose, one look. So you can see here I'm going through my massive pile of words here, and I'm just picking out ones that kind of speak to me, I guess, but I'm also adding them to my little pages in kind of themes, really loose themes, but kind of themes. So starting from the top left there, I've got wellness there, so I guess that's more words that are going to inspire my physical being this year, and then the pinker one up the top there is about, well, I guess more about balance, but it's a carryover from last year, I guess. Balance and rest, and making that a priority for myself. This one here that I've started working on is I guess loosely based on community, the group of people that I have as part of my life, which sort of goes together with home, I guess. It's that sense of being was sort of what I was talking about. There's before I did start these collages, I did go through my prompts from January about the things that I was looking for less of and things that I wanted more of, and I wanted to focus more on the more aspect of it rather than the less aspect of it, because these are collages to inspire things to come into my life. So this was that was the sort of aim I had for these little mini collages, was not so much the less of, but more the more of. And some of these things I trim out and they don't really work, and I should have planned out more, but I was having fun just trimming things out and gluing them down. That glue stick literally has seen 0 action since this prompt last year. I bought it for the prompt last year and I haven't used it since, so I was surprised that it still worked. Actually, it never occurred to me that I might need a new one, but it hadn't dried up at all, so that was great. When I trimmed out this photo here, the photo in the magazine, it had text through the middle of it, and I had kind of thought, well, I'll just cover that up with some of the words. But then it didn't occur to me, when I was trimming out the words, that I might be trimming out pieces that I'm going to need to cover up the text that was in there. So it's taken me a little bit of time to cover them up, because as much as I like the messiness and the act of creating these pages, the designer in me still wants them to look good. I know that's sort of not really the purpose of this exercise, but it is something that does still it's still important to me. It's important that these pages look good. Otherwise, all I will be focusing on is, oh, I wish I had done that better. So I am trying really hard to make them look good as well. So you'll see me trim out some things and then I decide not to go for them because yeah, I don't end up liking the way that they look, not necessarily because the message didn't work. But this one here, I didn't like the look and I didn't like the negative connotation. The quote said too tired to rest, and I thought I would change that to too tired rest, but I didn't like having the words too tired on there. It doesn't bring anything to my life, so I decided to just again edit that and just use the word rest instead of that sort of negative connotation. So this one ends up being super simple. I don't add too much to this page. I'm just filling in little words on the blank space of the photos. I've got a couple more to do, and this one here will end up being super simple as well. I loved the color of this photo. I kind of wish that it didn't have the little person in there, but I had considered maybe covering him up with some of these words, but decided to leave it in the end. It's not really like any sort of representation of me, I guess, and I'm sorry, this page is off the bottom of the screen here. I do push it up eventually, but I am adding words to the bottom there as well. This one here is about adventure, escaping, and not necessarily like escaping. I've got there, escape your home, which sounds really bad. It's not really what I mean. For me, it means I spend a lot of time here at home in my room, working, designing, playing. This is not like 90% of my life is here at home, and this year, part of my word open, I really want to get out of the house a bit more, get out of my space, get out of my comfort zone, and that doesn't necessarily mean you know, adventuring around the world. That's definitely not much of an option for me at the moment, but it does mean getting out of the house and enjoying our town, enjoying our neighborhood, that sort of thing. And whether that's with other people or on my own, I often use the excuse of being on my own to avoid doing that sort of thing, and I want to stop that behavior because, you know, I'm a grown woman. There's no reason that I can't go out on my own. I don't have to be with people all the time. It is pushing out of my comfort zone, and my anxiety levels are always high when I'm on my own, but that is something I want to fight through. Now this page here is, I guess, loosely based on creativity, the things I'd like to focus my creative mind on this year, maybe just the other aspects of my life. Well, probably like the main aspect of my life, because let's be fair, I work creatively for a living, graphic designer, and in my hobbies, my loves are creativity as well too. So it's a huge part of my life, and it's not a part that I'm like deeply unhappy with. I'm super happy with just about every aspect of my creativity, but there are always there's always room for improvement, I think, and those are some of the things that I wanted to work on this year, being a bit more open. I guess, you know, the things I share on here, I'm definitely very open as it is, but open my mind a bit more to the possibilities of what I could do, I guess, is the easiest way to explain it. So that's my 5 little collages all done, and I'm just trying to work out some sort of order to put them in my notebook. And I do shuffle them around a little bit, but one thing I did last year was used the pocket. I stitched something onto the pocket, and it just had this transparent aspect to it, which I really liked. And one of the images / words that I had trimmed out was this really lovely quote, and so I decided to do the same thing again. So I am going to just
back this quote with just another one of those smaller border images that I had found, just so it looks pretty on both sides, doesn't have some weird text on the back of it. And I'm going to add one word to it. I'm going to add the word change, just because that's what I'm hoping for. So I'm going to add that onto there, and then I'm going to stitch this onto my pocket with my sewing machine, but I just need to work out where that's going to happen. So the first thing I'm going to do before I stitch it all down is just stick these two collages into my book so that I can work out the placement for my little transparent piece here. And everything's stuck down onto these images, magazine pages, the cutout pieces, so I'm just adding a little bit of tape runner to stick them in, and then I can work out whereabouts in this pocket I want to keep it. And I just did a few lines of just straight stitch down one side of it. It's enough to keep it in the pocket. Actually, to be fair, the static electricity would have kept it in the pocket anyway, so the stitching just adds this nice little bit of just texture, a bit more interest. And were I to do this again, I would probably go and add a bit of stitching to some of these pages before I went ahead and glued them in too, just to carry on that theme. So I stuck the third one down, and these other two are going to slip into the pocket. I just stuck them back to back before I did that. And then I've got my little sheet that I stamped the same as last month, so if you haven't seen that, I'll leave the link at the end here. And I've just stuck that in as well. I realized I shouldn't have stuck it in because I'm not going to be able to type in my response at the end of the month, but never mind. Glue in this last page, and that's me done.
So this is how it ended up, and I'm super happy with it. I love this really blank space, I guess the openness of it, ironically. I was tempted to decorate it a little bit more, maybe add some washi tape or something, but in the end I'm just going to leave it open like this. Now this is again one of my favorite little pages, my little tricks to be using these pockets to add some sort of transparent element to it. I would have done that if I was working in an album, a pocket page album, so this is a nice way of adding those sort of transparent elements into a pocket page notebook like this. So I'm really pleased with how the little collages turned out. I like this large image with lots of words. I think they'll be good reminders to flick through the year of what my intentions are, I guess. And I'm so pleased that I'm not worried about space this year, so I can add in as many as I wanted. A 5 seems like a good number for me. It means my monthly intention ends on this page here, so I will be able to work on that throughout the month and then fill this in before starting March on the next page. So that is my little take on the prompt this month. It's always one of my favorites. I love creating these mood boards. I was doing it for a long time before I came across one little word in general. So something fun I love doing. I love the messiness of it, the creativeness, the fact that there's not so much control over it. You know, you really can only have to work with what you've found in the magazines, and it's interesting those things that you think you might have done when you were cutting out the words didn't actually end up being on there. I think it's a real exercise in editing as well, which I enjoy the opportunity to get. So let me know down below whether you enjoyed this prompt. Did you give it a go? I know a lot of you last year didn't enjoy it, didn't like this sort of thing. I hope you've given it a go this year. Let me know down below if you have or not. I'll try and convince you why you should.
If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If you want to keep watching, there's a couple more videos on screen. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. Bye guys.